Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk und bei mir habe ich heute ein Follow-up-Interview und zwar mit Newcore Gold. Luke Alexander ist der Präsident und CEO und ich habe einen Conflict of Interest. Ich bin Aktionär und für mich ist es eine extrem spannende Aktie. Sie liegt auch auf einem Trend, den wir sehr gut kennen, wo wir auch eine Aktie haben, die in den letzten Monaten sehr gut performt haben, nämlich die Asante, die eine Übernahme dort gemacht haben. Generell, wir befinden uns hier in Ghana. Ghana hat sehr viele Investments an sich gezogen in den letzten Jahr, kann man sagen. Und umso mehr, muss ich ehrlicherweise sagen, bin ich auch ein bisschen frustriert, weil ich meinen Aktienkurs anschaue, denn die performt nicht wirklich. Aber wer weiß, wenn wir ehrlich sind, Gold ist jetzt knapp unter 1900 heute, 1894 Grad. Vielleicht ist das jetzt auch der ideale Zeitpunkt, um die Position aufzustocken. Luke, thank you for your time. I said in my German introduction, I have a conflict of interest. I'm a shareholder, and especially, I must say, I'm a little bit wondering. What a little bit frustrating for me is the share price. You have an unbelievable big drill program. I think you drilled last year roughly 90,000 meters, and the share price is not really reacting on it, or it's not reacting in this way what we expect. But maybe it's also the gold price, but the gold price is now looks really good. We are close to 1900, so it looks like that we are now in the next wave up. And also you are working in an area like Ghana, and Ghana is also well known. One of other company what I really follow is Asante Gold. They have exactly in your trend they bought a project from Resolute Mining out of Australia, and they have an unbelievable run. And compared to your price, then is a little bit frustrating when I see the share performance. So maybe you have an idea why the stock is not so really reacting on these really good numbers.
Yeah, hi Joe. Thanks for having me on today. I think from a management and board perspective, we own 27% of Newcore. So we're very well aligned with shareholders. So needless to say, we're frustrated as well by the fact that this share price has really just traded sideways over the last year, despite all of the work that we've been doing on the project. In 2021, we released about 60,000 meters of drill results, as well as we put out a very robust economic study. I think the reality is that the gold market as a whole, if you look at it in 2021, gold ended up being the worst performing commodity, and as a result, a lot of companies traded down. And if we look at the end of 2021, most companies were trading towards a 52-week low. So that's, yes, very frustrating for us as major shareholders of the business. And we recognize for you and other shareholders that that's also frustrating. The one thing that obviously as a team we can't control is the gold price and the overall market. But what we can control is what we're doing on the ground. And when we laid out our strategy in 2020 and we talked to you at the time, we said we're going to drill aggressively on this project. This 90,000 meter program that we're doing at the moment is the largest ever drill program on the project. It's more meters than have ever been drilled. And what I think from a share price perspective is that we've traded down with a number of the other companies out there. But as we start to see the market re-rate, and I think you talked about how we're starting to see gold pushing $1,900. I think in the last couple of days, we've also started to see Newcore re-rate quicker than other companies. And I think the reality is all of that work that we did in 2021 will start to get reflected in the share price. And that will ultimately lead to it outperforming quicker than a number of other companies who have not been able to do as much work as we have because they've been undercapitalized. So yes, it's been extremely frustrating, but I think that we're going to see Newcore re-rate quicker than a number of other companies out there.
So you drill a lot. That's. Do you have some highlights? What we should talk about it? So to find some sweet spots and so on.
Yeah, so our project in Ghana, the Enchi project, it's a very large project. It's a district scale exploration opportunity, 212 square kilometers in size. It's got about 25 anomalies across the property, of which we've only drilled on 7 of them, and 4 of them make up our current 1.4 million ounce resource. So we have a lot of exploration opportunity. We've had a 3-pronged approach from an exploration perspective. We've been stepping out along strike at all of our resource areas. The bulk of our 1.4 million ounce resource sits within the oxides. So that lends itself to a heap leach operation, which is a much lower capex way of producing gold. So we've been significantly increasing the overall size of the mineralized footprint. We've also been targeting some new areas, making some new discoveries, and we're very excited about that. As well as, for the first time ever, we're starting to drill below 150 meters on the project. If you look at our current 1.4 million ounce resource, it only averages 63 meters in depth. When you compare that globally, we've really just scratched the surface. What we see with these greenstone hosted deposits along the Sefwi-Bibiani belt, including Chirano, including Asante's Bibiani asset, is that as you start to get deeper and you get into the sulfides, you typically start to see higher grades. And we've been very encouraged with some of the results we've been getting. In the summer of 2021, we released the highest grade intercept ever on our project, 95 grams over 2 meters. Within that same hole, we hit 13 grams over 1 meter. We've identified a couple of what we think are feeder structures at one of our deposits, the Nyam deposit, where we've had multiple 5-gram plus intercepts at about 175 to 250 meters below surface. So these kind of high grades that we're starting to see are very encouraging and really complement the oxide resource that we've outlined to date. So yes, we've been very pleased on multiple fronts from an exploration perspective.
But all these deeper holes are not in the resource so far. Do you plan a new resource calculation this year?
Correct. So if you look at our 90,000 meter drill program, only 20,000 meters was included in our resource update that we put out in June of last year. That included historical drilling as well. So about, call it 100,000 meters of drilling went into that 1.4 million ounce resource update that we put out. We've now got an additional 70,000 meters that we've been drilling. So essentially, all of the drill results that we released in 2021 are not included in that 1.4 million ounce resource. So there's a tremendous amount of drilling that we've done that, yes, will go into a future resource update. We're looking at most likely getting that done at the end of this year. We've got about 20,000 meters still left on our additional 70,000 meters. So we'll get that out over the next number of months. We'll get that completed. And then we'll, at that stage, compile all of the data and look to get an updated resource completed.
Is it possible that when you're coming up with this new resource calculation, that you have also the first deposit in the sulfide, so a deeper one, or do you think maybe this year we have not enough data that we can come up with a resource calculation on these deeper zones?
Yeah, so we have put a number of deeper holes into certain areas on our project. And one of the things that, yes, we would hope is that we will be able to get a maiden resource on some of that underground drilling that we've done as well. So look to obviously expand the overall open pit near surface oxide ounces, look to get, some targeted deeper underground resources calculated. And then also, obviously, one of the other things we're really excited about is making some new discoveries and showing the potential for additional areas on our property. As we would have talked about on our previous interview in the autumn of 2020, so a year and a half ago, we would have told you at the time that our goal is to grow this to a 3 to 5 million ounce resource. And obviously, this 90,000 meters is a step towards that. And the reason we talk about 3 to 5 million ounces is at that stage, you're looking at a 200,000 ounce a year producer over a 15 to 25 year mine life. So that's the kind of size and scale of project that becomes very attractive to any mid-cap or major out there.
Mm-hmm. I have at the moment the slide on page 22, and this is when you take your project, compare to Kinro's projects, and you see that you scratch only on the surface and not going, but the really sweet spot is the deeper, the sulfides underground. Also, I remember me that the major goal is to increase this to 3 to 5 million ounces, and then maybe somebody come in and take it over and bring this into production. We see now the gold price is moving, so maybe we are now in new run, and we know exactly normally the gold price is then running 1 or 1.5 year, and all the big companies are getting excited and they say, hey, we must do something, then we must replace our resource base and we need new projects. Do you think this is maybe an interesting window for the next 1.5 year, or is it too early for your project?
No, I think the next year to 2 years are going to be very interesting from a gold price perspective. We've obviously started to see the gold price rise. We had a very solid floor at $1,800. Gold, refused to break through that level. My view is there must have been a very large group out there accumulating gold at that price, and now we've started to see it move higher. One of the things that I think is interesting is there's been a lot of talk about inflation and rate rises, and if we look at the last 4 rate rise, Fed rate rises going back to 1994, where you've really seen that inflection point and gold outperforming is once that rate rise has actually happened. In the 6 to 12 months leading up to that point, gold has typically underperformed. So I would argue that that's what we saw in 2021 is, rates remaining low and no indication of them rising, giving the governments around the world and specifically the Fed wanted to ultimately stimulate the economy. But now that there's almost a certainty of a rate rise in March, I would actually argue that that's an inflection point for us to see gold moving even higher. And what we could be seeing right now with the move from 1,800 towards 1,900 is that, first movers or early investors are starting to factor that in and are starting to buy gold ahead of that rate rise. Obviously, we've also got significant geopolitical tensions with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, which is also contributing to the gold price. But I think we're in for a very interesting period as we get this rate rise behind us and we see governments around the world trying to control what is, multi-decade inflation levels.
Mm-hmm. By gold exploration is like a little bit like the real estate market is always location, location, location. So you're in Ghana. What makes Ghana so special? So that is it in the focus? We see, for example, this one deal for Asante, I know, but what's really happened in the country?
So without a doubt, and I'd be happy to talk to you for the next 6 hours about what a great jurisdiction and all of the reasons why Ghana is a tier 1 jurisdiction. But if we start at a very high level, it is Africa's largest gold producer. It's the 6th largest gold producer in the world, just behind Canada from a production perspective. So with that, you get a very well-aligned government. It's important for the economy. It's important for jobs. It's important for taxes. The other thing you get in Ghana with all of that production, 5 million ounces per year, is you get a very skilled labor force. So we're able to attract tier one geologists and other employees to our project. Given that skilled labor, you also get a huge amount of service companies in country. So Ghana acts as a hub for a lot of West Africa. So drill companies, assay labs, all of them within a few hour drive of our project. In terms of some of the activity that we've seen in Ghana, I think reiterates the reason companies want to be there. If we look at 2021 from an M&A perspective, we had Cardinal Resources get taken out. That was a full-on bidding war between Shandong and Nord Gold, as well as we had, as you've mentioned, the Asante deal where they bought the Resolute asset. And then at the end of 2021, we saw Chifeng come and acquire Golden Star. So all three of those very meaningful M&A transactions. The other thing I would highlight is the significant investment that we're seeing in country. You've currently got 4 of the top 10 largest gold producers in country: Newmont, Gold Fields, Kinross, and Anglo Gold. If we look at Newmont specifically, and you look at their Ahafo asset, which you and a number of your listeners are probably familiar with, we've got our Enchi project, we've got Kinross's Chirano project, we've got Bibiani, and then just to the north of that, you've got one of Newmont's 2 producing mines in country, the Ahafo mine. They announced in Q3 of 2021 that they're going to invest another $750 to $850 million to expand the Ahafo North portion of that project and add an additional roughly 300,000 ounces of production. That will take Newmont's exposure to Ghana from 14% to 20% of their global production. I think that speaks for itself that you've got the largest gold producer on the planet willing to have 20% of their total gold production coming from Ghana. I would challenge you and any other of your listeners to go and find another country, whether it's in Africa or another emerging market, that ultimately has that kind of exposure for such a major company.
Mm-hmm. Look, we know exactly exploration is expensive, so it need a lot of money. So how much cash you have at the moment, what you plan this year, so and also from the money side, and is this enough or you need then a private placement? I saw in the fall last year you do a private placement with 60 cents, a bought deal. So you are trading now under this level. So what are the plans for this year?
Yeah, so that deal that you referred to last year, it wasn't a private placement. It was actually a bought deal led by a syndicate of banks. The important differentiation there is that obviously that means it's free trading stock and you can attract a much more sophisticated potential group of investors. That deal was led by Franklin Templeton. They're obviously one of the largest asset managers on the planet. They were very keen on the company and ended up buying an 8% stake in Newcore. If you look at our current shareholder list and capital structure, we've got a very good capital structure, only 120 million shares outstanding and no warrants. And we've got a very supportive institutional investor base. We are currently owned 40% by institutional investor. These are dedicated precious metal mining investors and have been very supportive of the company. We're also very well covered from a investment banking perspective. So we've got 5 tier 1 banks out of Canada who cover us from a research perspective. So in terms of our budget, the way we laid it out is we want to make sure we've got enough capital to be able to run the company right through 2022, as well as obviously completing this 90,000 meter drill program and also getting a resource update out. With that, as major shareholders of the business, we'll obviously look to our other significant shareholders and decide what we want to do in terms of next step. Is that to, do another 50,000 meters of drilling, 100,000 meters of drilling, or potentially do another economic study? So those are all options for us. But for now, we're obviously very well funded and have the option to, decide when it makes sense to ultimately execute on one of those different plans.
Mm-hmm. One question coming to mind when you say a lot of activities are in the country from these big names. Do you already talk with them so they are interested in them? I know the gold business or the exploration business is a closed business. Everybody knows each other. So and it's a friendly way to talk to each other. And do you talk already with some of maybe potential buyers? And they're interested in your project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, in terms of our approach from a business development perspective, from a market perspective, is we want to make sure that as many groups, whether that's retail investors, institutional investors, or potential corporate investors or acquirers, are familiar with Newcore and our Enchi project. So we speak to anybody who's interested in learning about Enchi and learning about Newcore. I mean, that's one of the key things, again, about this company is because management and insiders own 27% of the business, we're ultimately going to do what's best for investors. We're not here to, have a job and kind of work 9 to 5. We're here to create significant shareholder value. And if that means, taking an investment from a strategic or a corporate, that's something that obviously we would entertain. My view is where we sit today, we need to add some additional ounces. And as we start to get to 2 to 2.5 million ounces, that's where typically you start to see, mid-cap and major companies start to get interested. That's back to my earlier comment about how once you get to 200,000 ounces of production over a 15 to 25 year mine life, that's where you start to see real corporate activity and interest. Mm-hmm. Our job in the meantime is to make sure that as many companies are monitoring and following Newcore as we continue to execute and build towards that kind of size and scale. So yes, we obviously, us along with any other company at our stage, should be actively engaged and talking to potential corporate investors or acquirers.
Mm-hmm. Look, thank you for the update. I think this was really a great one. Hopefully we have time, maybe in 6-9 months, when hopefully gold is well over 2,000 and your drill results coming up really nicely, and maybe we see then or we close to the new resource update. Thank you for your time. It was really a very interesting update.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. Great to connect.
Thank you. So, das war jetzt wirklich ein Update von Newcore. Ich bin ja Aktionär und mir hat es gut gefallen, was ich gehört habe. Sie bohren. Eigentlich ist das ein No-Brainer. Das ist eine ziemlich einfache Geschichte. Sie bohren, und jetzt gehen wir mal auf Seite 22, da sieht man es nämlich am besten. Sie kratzen wirklich nur an der Oberfläche. Man sieht es hier, sie haben hier ihre 4, die ganze Ressource, die sie jetzt haben, von 1,4 Millionen, kommt nur auf der Oberfläche bis zu 63 Meter, glaube ich, hat er gesagt, ist es drinnen. Aber die wirklich interessante, der richtig Sweet Spot, wie man so schön sagt, ist unterhalb dieser Oxide-Schicht, sondern diese Sulfide-Schicht, die ist wirklich spannend. Dort haben sie einige große Bohrlöcher auch rein schon geschlagen und haben sehr, sehr gute Bohrergebnisse gehabt. Letztes Jahr hat er gesagt, irgendwo im Juni, glaube ich, 95 Gramm hat er. What was the highest results what you're coming up with from the drill? This was 95 grams or what is?
Yeah, not 95 grams over 2 meters with an additional 13 grams over 1 meter within that same intercept.
Wow. Yeah, really great numbers. So, also sie haben extrem hochgradig, aber das sind diese unterirdischen, also nicht unterirdisch, sondern die sind diese sulfidische Erze. Das ist typisch. Oben ist oxidiert, weil da einfach durch die Umwälzung auch Luft dazukommt, das oxidiert. Unten ist das sulfidische Erz und das sulfidische Erz ist traditionell einfach hochgradiger. Und man sieht es hier sehr stark, wie gesagt, hier der Kinross-Schnitt unten halb sehr hochgradig. Oben ist eher das Leichte, was man natürlich abbauen kann über einen Open Pit, aber unten ist dann richtig spannend. Und man zeigt einfach auf, dass unten eine sehr interessante Struktur ist und dass dort auch das hochgradige Gold ist. Alles, was Sie jetzt an, ist Oberfläche, alles, was Sie in der Ressource haben, und da haben Sie 1,4 Millionen. Er glaubt, dass Sie, wenn Sie auf 2,5 Millionen kommen, dass Sie dann Interesse ist, dass jetzt langsam anfängt, dann dass Sie bezüglich Übernahmegespräche führen. Sie sprechen natürlich jetzt schon mit interessierten Partnern. Klar, weil die Leute auch die Ergebnisse sehen, die Community ist ja relativ klein, jeder spricht mit jedem, und ihr Job ist es einfach, sich richtig oder rechtzeitig zu connecten, dass jeder über dieses Projekt Bescheid weiß. 60.000 Bohrmeter sind bis jetzt noch nicht eingeflossen in diese Ressourcenschätzung, und sie planen Ende des Jahres eine neue Update von der Ressourcenschätzung, und da wird sie dann signifikant hoffentlich höher sein. Ob dort dann schon eine unterirdische, also sulfidische Ressource dabei ist, wissen sie noch nicht. Das hängt davon ab, wie es die Drills auch setzen. Denn muss man eine gewisse Dichte haben am Bohrlöcher, sonst kann man keine Ressourcenschätzung machen. Das ist ganz wichtig, das ist genau festgelegt, sonst kriegt man keine Ressourcenschätzung. Also das, was Sie jetzt machen, die nächsten 12 Wochen, ist bohren, Ressourcenschätzung, und wenn der Sharepreis eigentlich anzieht, und wir sind jetzt knapp bei 1900 dran, also es schaut aus, wie das wir jetzt nach oben ausbrechen, dann kommen Goldaktien wieder in den Fokus und dann läuft es eigentlich schon wieder. Was ganz spannend ist, ist die Aktionärstruktur. Sie haben sehr große Players dabei. Franklin Templeton war zum Beispiel bei der letzten Runde ist dazugekommen, war ein Bot-Deal. Da sind, glaube ich, 11,5 Millionen reingekommen. Sie haben sehr, sehr große Aktionäre, bekannte Aktionäre drinnen. Das Management heute aber selber nur 27%. Das gefällt mir extrem gut. Sie sitzen mit uns Aktionären im selben Boot, die wollen einfach, dass das ein gescheiter Deal wird, und dann wird das dementsprechend auch schön übernommen. Sie haben 5 Research Coverages, man sieht es da, Comark, Haywood, Raymond James, Broad, Stiefel, die haben Research. Und der Aktienkurs war eigentlich eher enttäuschend, man sieht es auch hier im 6-Monat-Chart eher seitwärts nach unten gegangen, weil einfach Gold nicht im Februar, Gold war einfach auch der schlechteste Performer, der Worst Performer 2021, und dadurch war auch bei den Goldaktien nicht wirklich was. Dafür haben sie sich gut gehalten, muss man ehrlicherweise sagen. Für mich ist das absolut ein Titel, ich habe schon eine Position, die ist noch nicht groß, aber ich möchte auch nochmal nachkaufen, weil ich wirklich daran glaube, wenn das Gold läuft, dann sind das die ersten Projekte, die auch dann übernommen werden, und da kriege ich dann die Prämie. Natürlich sind Produzenten das eine, die kriege ich ja teilweise mit einem KGV 3, 4, 5. Die sind natürlich an erster Linie, aber wenn man dann in der zweiten Reihe schaut, dann ist das ein 1A-Projekt, das bei mir ganz oben auf der Kaufliste steht, beziehungsweise auf der Erweiterungsliste, also Zukaufsliste. Ja, das war's. Ein Interview heute am 17. Februar 2020, Newcore Gold, und ja, wir hören sich in Kürze wieder. Tschüss und Baba. Pfiat euch. Luke, thank you for your time. Good luck on the drilling, and hopefully we see us soon, maybe in person. That would be also nice. Maybe on the PDSC. The PDSC is now in June, so it's much warmer also in Toronto. So at this time, so maybe we have time and talk maybe at the PDSC, and then we can talk a little bit about new drill results.
Yeah, that'd be great, Joe. Yes, June is a much nicer time of the year to visit Toronto than March. So it might end up sticking in June, given the feedback I'm sure a lot of the committee will get. So thank you very much for your time today, and look forward to reconnecting soon.
Thank you.